in order to find a hobby, to do something when I'm not able to go out or, do stuff, I purchased a camera. The only reason I used to go to weddings is ice cream. My friends were very they were pushing me, no, you should do, give it a shot,
Good friends. House on the Clouds is the name. It's very unconventional, like how you present your wedding films also.
So the name was very important. For the first 2 years, we started with my own name, Sid Photography and Films. I would not like to join a company which has someone else's name. First, celebrity wedding that we shot.
Alia Ranbir.
Alia Ranbir.
Your clicked picture of Sid and Kiara's, wedding has the most likes on Instagram in India.
I would say that we are in the best phase of our journey as a photographer and videographer.
Hey everyone, this is Shruti. Welcome to my podcast, I'm Just Curious, where I talk of all things I'm curious about with the people I'm curious about and how they turn their passion into their profession.
In today's episode, I'm going to be talking to someone who is an engineer turned wedding photographer and videographer. He's the most sought after and fine wedding photographers and videographers in India right now. His style and aesthetic is loved by people who are looking for a non-conventional wedding film. He is the most go-to wedding photographers and videographers for celebrities like Love Ranjan, Alia Ranbir, Sid Kiara. I'm super happy and excited to welcome the House on the Clouds founder, Siddharth Sharma, with me on the podcast today. Hi Siddharth, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
How have you been? How's everything?
Busy, as always. I think as a wedding, like anybody else in weddings, we are always,
Good. That's
busy.
a good thing. Yeah. So let's start from the beginning. What sparked your curiosity? Do you remember any earliest memory as a child that you were drawn to cameras or photographs or something? Or is it something that happened as you grew?
No, actually. I don't remember me using a camera or being fond of camera.
Okay.
The only thing that maybe I can relate to is that my mom loved to get her portraits. Get shot by others. So she was, she loved to go to studios and, get her portraits done. And she was a big sort of movie buff, Rajesh Khanna fan.
Okay.
And so I don't think that actually converts exactly but still the only relation I have with my camera is that my mom was very fond of being photographed, not taking, but being photographed.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's a very unconventional answer that I've got
Yeah.
on the podcast. So talk to me about your inclination. When did that actually begin?
So I was in States. I'm an engineer by profession. So I was working in United States in an investment banking firm. And there, in US, after October, it gets dark very soon. So after 4 or 5, it gets dark. So it gets very boring. So by the time you come back from office, it's dark. So you have nothing to do, nothing much to do.
Right.
So actually, it was that point where I sort of, in order to find a hobby, to do something when I'm not able to go out or, do stuff, I purchased a camera. And most of the photographs I used to do, because it was dark outside, I used to just take photographs within my room. And it was tricky because it was a very small room, dark. And, no light, whatever light I can, use. But I used to do a lot of self-portraits or, weird portraits, me flying here, there, Photoshop stuff. So I used to do a lot just to, pass time.
Right.
And that was the first memory of what I have of me using a camera. And then sort of it evolved because there were some, my friends had kids. So I love to take photographs. I love kids. So I used to take photographs of all the kids who, around my, friend circle. So I used to do a lot of that stuff. And that was actually where I sort of, you can say started my photography journey.
Okay.
Because what I used to do in the room was mostly Photoshop work. I love to edit.
Okay.
So my passion started with post-production actually. That was my first passion. Then it came to photography. So my first entry into photography was when I started doing, photographs of my friends' kids. That's how I started.
Right. So how did, the switch happen finally from engineering to this? What made you say that, okay, like maybe this is more than just a hobby or like a side thing that you do just for fun, but rather like you could do something out of it? When did that happen?
So I came back from US to India, to Bangalore. I'm from Delhi, by the way.
Okay.
So I came back to Bangalore, and but I was not able to adjust to the Indian way of working IT because after college I went to US. I worked there for 6 years. So what I knew of the professional work culture was all American.
Okay.
But when I came back to India, I was like a bit taken aback by how things work in India. Like,
Right.
you
Right.
have to come on Saturdays even if you don't have work.
Right.
You have to stay in the office till late even if you don't have work.
Yeah.
So I was not, convinced with the whole work culture. So I was looking for something to do something outside, this thing, just so I can focus somewhere else. And by the time I came back, I was already into, photography a bit, but again, purely into portraits,
Okay.
conceptuals, portraits. I used to take photograph of my girlfriend and, kids and all that.
Yeah.
Nothing into weddings, but I used to do a lot of portraits. So as a
Very
time pass,
creative stuff.
conceptual, I would like to say,
Yeah, conceptual.
because not like straightforward. Like,
Right.
for example, I love to convert ideas into photographs, and that usually take, some photographs took me 3 to 4 months to make.
Right.
So that was, a time where, like, I used to spend 3 months on Photoshop to make one photo. But again, it was not like it was passion project, not like anything related
So you were
to.
not thinking of it as,
Yeah,
oh,
nothing.
let's do something with this.
Definitely.
Let's take this somewhere.
Definitely, nothing was on my mind. But so I think it was in 2014 when one of my friends from US, he came to India, and he was getting married. He asked me to shoot his wedding purely because I have a DSLR. So since I had
Very brave of him, I must say, for a wedding, not
No,
a birthday,
actually,
nothing.
it-
Wedding.
actually, one of my, as a kid, I never liked going to weddings. I sort of hated weddings all my life. I think I said this before, that the only reason I used to go to weddings is ice cream. As a kid, I just went straight and
Just for ice cream.
just for ice cream. Otherwise, I have no interest in weddings. I don't understand like why my parents used to take me to weddings. I never liked it.
Right.
And but when I attended my friend's wedding, maybe it was the first wedding where it was my close friend. So, but that was one of the most interesting weddings I have ever been to in
Okay.
my whole life, till date. I've done 300 weddings till date, and
Yeah.
still that the first wedding that I shot was one of the most interesting weddings as such. And that sort of, started my,
What made it so interesting?
well, the interesting thing about that wedding was that he was a Christian.
Okay.
He was marrying a Hindu, but nobody knew he's a Christian.
What?
So even the name on the wedding card on the board was all Hindu. So his name is Ronald. They made it Rohan.
Oh my God.
And so the idea behind the whole wedding was, we have to make sure that no one from the bride side talks to the groom side. So the groom side are all Christian, and we told everybody that they're all Hindus. And the bride side are, obviously they were
And this was what year?
2014.
Okay.
2014, I think.
Okay.
And that was one of the most interesting weddings because, it was, I felt like there was like, it's like a treasure hunt going on. And obviously I was shooting, but it's just that the whole wedding, the setup was so interesting that I enjoyed it like anything. It was one of the most interesting wedding. And then I figured out that, wedding, if you have something, a task at hand, then a wedding is very interesting because that's the time where, a lot of people are on their emotional edge.
Yeah.
It could be one side, it could be emotional high or emotional low. And when people are
On either end of
either
the-
end, stories happen,
Right.
things happen, and it's get unpredictable. You don't know what will happen. So that I felt that idea of being in a space where you don't know what's going to happen. You know that it's a wedding ceremony. You know what's the process. You know what's going to happen next in terms of the ceremony, but you don't know how people are going to react. You don't know how the mom of the bride will react. You don't know how the groom will react. So that I felt was very curious. If I'm assigned a task to search for that, then I felt weddings were very interesting, because I have a task. I have to sort of search for things. Could be moments or could be anything. But and I really enjoyed that particular wedding. That's where I started. And the second wedding I shot was again one of my friends, from my college friend. And
What was an interesting aspect there? Was it something or like...
there was nothing too interesting there. The only thing interesting was, like, a lot of my friends were there. Actually, after that wedding, I thought, I don't think I can do weddings.
Because it was very...
No, because a lot of my friends were there, and I felt like instead of enjoying with my friends, I'm shooting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I thought, I don't think I can do it. So, and also that was a time where the wedding photography as such was not a, what you call a mainstream profession. And that wedding I was shooting in sort of a very, no, I won't say a village, but like Muradabad, which is, I think
A small town
a
kind
small
of.
town, and how the people will talk to you if you're a wedding photographer, I felt was completely different. And I didn't like it. Obviously, I'm an engineer. I worked in, I worked for 10 years before switching. So I'm used to more like a very professional kind of environment where, you need to talk, you need to say sir, or there's a certain respect. But when I went and did that wedding, I felt there were a few incidences in that wedding where I felt like this is not for me. Like, why should I, leave my job and do this, where people are saying, hey, photographer, take my photo.
Yeah. There's no integrity given to the person who's doing...
No matter how you dress or whatever, how you dress makes a lot of difference. But in the end, if you're holding a camera, you're just a photographer to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the main, there are mommy G's or mama G's who don't care what you're wearing. They want a photo, so they want a photo. They'll call you the way they think is right.
Yeah.
But since I was not used to the whole idea, so I was taken a bit back by, that kind of. And even after that, there was no intention for me to switch. Till the point where a genuine client came to me.
Which is not a friend.
Not a friend.
Like a genuine client.
Like a client who used to live in my society only.
Okay.
So he came and he asked me, because I posted some photographs from these two weddings on my website and on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so he came and he asked me that, if I can shoot his wedding. And that was a time where I remember I was in my room with a lot of my friends, and we did a whole discussion that whether I should do or not. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I cannot shoot somebody else's wedding.
That I don't know.
I don't know. And like, I cannot do this for money. Like, and also I felt like this is not something, and see, I'm a big introvert.
Okay.
Now I've slightly improved, but being an introvert, going in a room full of strangers where
Takes
you
a
have
lot
to
of
talk.
effort.
And I was not comfortable with that idea also, because the other weddings that were shot up were my friends. And there was still a level of comfort. But this, I was like, I don't talk to strangers also. If I sit with a stranger, I don't know what to say. And then I'm alone going in a place where there are hundreds of people, and then I have to photograph
You
them.
have to break the ice also to get good moments with them.
Yeah, I mean, that
Sometime.
also. And so that was, one of my... So we spent the whole night discussing
Okay.
whether I should do or not. And my friends were very like, they were pushing me, no, you should do. Give it a shot.
Good friends.
Give it a
like
shot.
that.
Give it a shot. And I was like, I don't think this is for me. But I still took it. I still took that. I remember it was 2 or 3 day wedding. I charged like 20,000 rupees, I remember, for that. But I think after that wedding, I was sort of happy. One is by the way they treated me, the respect. I felt I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was out of place, to be very honest. I
Didn't
felt
feel
very
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I
or
felt
anything.
maybe because the clients were like that, they made me feel very comfortable. There was no one. They were all South Indian, so I didn't understand the language.
Okay.
Even if they were saying something, I didn't. I didn't understand. But it was South Indian wedding. But still, I enjoyed shooting that wedding.
Right.
One of my friends who actually pushed me, I took him with me
Right.
just for company, because I was feeling awkward. He slept throughout the ceremony. But yeah, I mean, that was where I started. That was my first step into professional photography.
Interesting. Very interesting story. I was not expecting. Also, I feel like all the weddings, I wish all the weddings in India or in the world would be like the first wedding that you did of your friends.
We
I
also
would love
hope,
that.
But
That's
it's really
like the best
it's
best
rare.
story I've ever heard on the podcast.
Definitely. Actually, there was a lot
Did
of
it
details.
work out, the marriage?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
They have a twin.
Mm,
They have
good.
twin daughters,
Great. Good for
and
them.
it's all sorted. But that wedding itself can be converted to a film.
Film. Yeah, it sounds like.
But we were not shooting film. I was just doing photos,
Yeah.
and there was no videographer at that time.
Okay.
But I think it would have made into one hell of a film.
If give it a chance to go back in time, I think you would choose to
I think so.
film that
I think
wedding.
it was because it was an insane wedding. I remember. So now, since I was not only the photographer, I was also the person in charge
Right.
to do a lot of things. Like my job was to make sure the bride side and the groom side do not talk to each other. So we bought a dhol wala guy. So whenever we see two people talking,
Oh my God.
and we used to ask him to go and start.
Lovely.
So it was a lot of small, I think, nuances was there in that wedding, which now if I remember, it was like next level weird, but still it was
No, but I
almost.
mean, just listening to it gives such a
Yeah.
nice vibe and like a fun.
It was not fun actually at that time because
Yeah, it's because they actually
they
want
were
to get
stressed,
married.
Yes, and it was stressful because there were people from the other side who were trying to,
Fake
like particular jasoos, were trying to say ke
kuch dal mein kuch
yeah,
kala
dal mein
hai
kuch kala
types.
hai and all that. There's a lot of stuff going on. So it
Yeah.
was lot of what you call, like secretly they used to come and they used to talk to me and about stuff. But yeah, it was still most interesting wedding I've ever shot.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like it. Talk to me about like now you finally decided that okay, I'm gonna do it. You know, like when you shot the third wedding that you did. How did you actually make that switch? Like because engineers and because most of the Indian population, like they want their kids to become engineers, and leaving an engineering job is like a big shock to the family and everyone around. How did you actually make that switch for someone who's like struggling and thinking if they want to make a switch in their life? What would you tell them? Like how did you do it?
I'm a very practical person. How I switched was not a very kind of in the moment kind of a decision. I took 2 years
Okay.
to make that decision. So I started in 2014 early and I left my job in 2015
Okay.
end. So, and I had a very clear funda in my head that I should make 2 times the money I'm making in my current job. Only then I'll switch. I was very clear about it because even though I never struggled as such, because when I started, I think I
You
used to
had
get
people who wanted
used
to
get
hire
a
you.
lot of inquiries. I used to get a lot of inquiries, a lot of weddings I used to get. I was surprised from where are these people coming? And at that time there was no Instagram, there was Facebook, and I used to post there. And there were a lot of I used to be very busy. Almost every weekend I used to shoot. But I was still very clear that I leave my job because I was a senior position. So for me to leave, and plus I'm not that kind that zero place in the game. I'm not that.
Yeah,
kind.
not very spontaneous.
Not very
like,
spontaneous,
jo
and
hoga dekha jayega type.
so I'm definitely not that kind. I most of the time I think a lot. I think a lot about even now I think a lot. What I want to do, how I want to do, where I want to place myself. So I think a lot. And that decision also was a very well thought of decision. 2 years I took, and I was very clear. For 3 months, I should be making more money, 2 times more money than my current job. And I resigned a month before my own wedding. The 2015 November, I was getting married, my November end, and I resigned in October. So by November, actually by the time of my wedding, I was jobless,
Okay.
sort of jobless. That because I resigned and
Yeah.
my notice period was over. So November I was free,
Yeah.
and that's how I sort of switched into this full time. But it was not a decision that
You took overnight.
No,
you took
no,
it.
it was
A lot of thought went into
lot
it.
of thoughts, lot of sleepless nights, because I was obviously, I spoke to my parents and everybody around, and my parents were like, if you think you do it. My parents were very they're like me. So sort of, I think they always trusted also, like they knew that I'm not that kid that will कि आज ये कर रहा कल छोड़ छाड़ के चला जाएगा. I'm not
like
I've
a
never done.
responsible
Yeah, I'm not like
person.
that kind of kid also. I mean, it's good and bad both.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, looking back, do you think, like, sometimes, because, like, people procrastinate and they get into this cycle of overthinking as well, which is what happens nowadays a lot. I don't know, before maybe, you had, like, a few options and, like, few things to think about and everything. Now, I think it happens even more. So, sometimes people can get too stuck in their head. So, do you think, like, how do you differentiate, like, if you're not, like, overthinking something or, like, if you're there?
See, I think I don't know the answer to it because I think I always overthink. I'm from a very middle class family. So my priorities were very sorted. Like, I don't think I had this privilege of overthinking or not. Like, I was very clear that, that money cannot be left out of the equation. I was very clear because, nowadays I think people they're in a much better place to take decisions without thinking a lot. And people do take decisions, but when where I was and when I made the switch, I was, being from a middle class family who has seen, stuff. So I was very clear that, I'm not going to take any decision which will affect my future or my family's future, financially also and otherwise also.
Right.
So yes, I think I did a lot of overthinking. Otherwise, I would have resigned in 2014 itself because I was doing good even in 2014. I shot around 20 weddings in 1 year, which was big given that you've just started.
Yeah, nowadays people shoot like 2, 3, 5 weddings and they're like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I spent a lot of time. I think I did good 30 weddings before I switched, 30 weddings. And so, yeah, I mean, you can call it overthinking, but I felt like given my situation and how my background, I think that was needed.
I get it, because nowadays I think it's also very romanticized to be quick about things and do this and do that.
This I see very, I deal with even my own team or people who join us. I can see that there is a much, the lack of patience and they want to see the results much quicker. And maybe it works. It also works because right now it's a bit much faster, everything is faster. So maybe it works to some extent, but I in my head, I have a lot of patience. So I always, try to have my options. I carefully evaluate and, I take very slow decisions.
Right.
But work for me, maybe will not work for someone else, but yeah, it worked for me.
No, but very fascinating, like the whole, not just the wedding photography, like the whole personality angle coming into it and how this happened for you. Talk to me about, like, you started doing this and slowly you start getting recognized and, you start getting bigger and bigger projects and weddings and stuff. How was that like? When was the first time you were like, you got like a celebrity wedding and you were like, okay, this is getting big now?
See, honestly, I'm not a celebrity guy.
Okay.
I don't fantasize celebrities.
No doubt, like based on what you just described me.
So I'm
I
not
can
like,
agree with that.
I'm not even a person who will see a celebrity and goes say a selfie.
Yeah.
I've still not taken a photograph with any of the celebrities. Long time back, I think I started in 2014 and I think in 2016 was when we were asked to shoot the engagement of Trisha. Trisha is a Tamil actress.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, like, you don't know, even I didn't know.
Okay.
But so we were asked that, can you shoot her engagement? And yeah, okay. And we were told, and we got to know that August, she's a, sort of celebrity. But it was not when we landed in Chennai, we
that
knew
you realized
that how big celebrity she is, because the whole city was covered with posters of her. And we were like, oh, she is one of the, and she is one of the biggest celebrities. Actually,
I've got
from
the
South.
name. I'm like not recollect like my face.
Some Hindi film also she has done. And that was our first kind of tryst with the celebrity thing.
Like the scale and
It was an engagement. It was
Yeah.
at home. So it was not like a scale. Most of celebrity weddings don't have scale.
Scale in terms of how big people make it to be.
Yeah.
I meant that.
Yeah. So, and there were a lot of, South Indian stars like Dhanush and, Kamal Hassan sir, a lot of people. But again, I don't know, but I was never like too much like fascinated or excited by seeing celebrity. I was never, never
As a
like
child
that.
also,
Not,
never like
never.
into movies or anything.
Movies, yes, but
Yes.
not like mad about
Celebrities in
celebrities.
general.
I was never mad about celebrities. And that was it. I think in 2016 we did that one small engagement. And then we didn't shoot a celebrity wedding till last year, which was Alia. So that was actually technically our first celebrity wedding that we shot.
Alia Ranbir.
Alia Ranbir.
After like a long time.
After, if you ignore that 2016 engagement, but
Okay.
so that was our first sort of celebrity wedding was Alia Ranbir only.
Before that, I think you did Love Ranjan.
We
Was
did,
it
but we
before
were
that?
already signed up. So we did Love Ranjan's wedding first, but
But that one happened.
we were signed up for Alia already.
First.
So because we shot Alia's friend's wedding somewhere in December. So,
Right.
but yeah, on paper we did Love's wedding first, and Alia was I think just 3 months after. January, February we did Love Ranjan's wedding, and I think it was April when we did Alia's wedding.
House on the Clouds is the name. It's very unconventional, like how you present your wedding films also. Where does that thing of being non-conventional come from? Like, why is it like that? And why the name House on the Clouds?
You see, for a person who is already has 10 years of experience in IT, to leave all that and to jump into a completely new profession, there has to be something in it for me, and everything, the only reason I jumped into photography full time was because I wanted to do something different. And that was the only reason. Otherwise, I can just go back to my profession, which was much, much less stressful.
Right.
Obviously, it's very easy, 9 to 5, and at least after 5, you can sleep.
Chill. Yeah.
And you can do stuff.
Yeah.
And now, I don't think I've ever,
Yeah.
I've not watched a single movie in
luxury is
person.
not there
there's no
anymore.
luxury. So I think to leave all that and come to enter into weddings, I was very clear that I have to do something which excites me. It has to be different, or maybe I don't care about whether it's different for others or not. I've never thought, okay, it will be different for this. It has to be different for me. I should feel good. I should feel that, okay, I've done something different just for me. So that was one of my, intentions. And so the name was very important. For the first 2 years, we started with my own name, Sid Photography and Films. And, I think as more and more people joined, I think Vivek was the first person who joined, and then, others joined. And I felt like having your own name, I personally, this is again my personal opinion, that I would not like to join a company which has someone else's name.
Okay.
I feel if you are...
You're not a part of something then.
No, I mean, it has to be neutral.
Okay.
Like, it cannot be Siddharth Sharma and then there are 3-4 like very
Got
good.
it.
If my intention is to have the top talent, some of the best people come and work, it should not be one person's name.
Right.
Most of the people who join actually are more talented than me. So if I cannot work for someone else like this, then I cannot expect others to come and work for a name. So I was not fond of this idea as such that, Siddharth Sharma, because I'll never work for another Siddharth Sharma.
Right.
So, so we decided that there will be a neutral name. We need to have a neutral name. And House on the Clouds was one of the names that I've kept for the cafe that I wanted to make.
Interesting.
Since my US days.
Okay.
So this name I thought when I was in US that one day I'll go to India.
Why House on? But why? Suddenly
It
just like that.
rhymed. That's it. House on the Clouds. Just sound like there's no
Backstory
logic.
to
There's
it.
no back. We created backstory after we named it.
Okay.
That okay, house is this, clouds is this,
Very
and a lot
interesting.
of like.
Yeah.
But when we thought of the name, there was no backstory. It was as random as you were sleeping and you woke up and okay, let's
It
name
just came to you.
like that. Yeah, there's no rocket science behind the name.
Got it.
It was very casual. In a house on the clouds. One day I just thought of this name and I liked it. So there was no rocket science behind the name. Very random name. And I always wanted to open a cafe somewhere on the rooftop of Bangalore. And I kept that name for that. And when we decided that we want to create a new company with a name, so I think we spent 3 months figuring out a name. We actually kept a lot of names in that 3 months. We renamed the company several times in 2-3 months.
Related to wedding stuff.
Something, yeah. Film Fellas, I remember, was one of the names, Film Fellas. But then, we were not very convinced. So in the end, I gave up my dream name and I thought, okay, we'll figure the cafe later because there's no plan as such right now. So we went with House on the Clouds.
But it can get carried on as a brand, because so many
Yeah,
clothing labels also have their cafes now.
That's the intention. Hopefully, we'll get there.
Nice. And if I just may add, it's the same thing that happened with me when I started this. So I was like, just randomly for 2-3 days, this name kept on coming to my mind. I'm just curious. And my mind would be like, do this. Before you let me sleep at night. And it was very peculiar thing that just happened randomly out of the blue. And I was like, what? Why is this happening? There was this one time I remember I was going to sleep and I knew that it's going to start. Every night it would start. Like, I'm just curious, like, do this. And I was like, okay, fine, I will do it. Just stop now. And then I did it. So I feel like that's I've not heard very many people have that. So that's interesting to me.
Similar, I think, can say very similar start.
Yeah, that it just comes to you. Interesting. Talk to me about what are some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to wedding photography, videography.
There are a lot of don'ts for sure.
Okay.
I don't usually preach others. I don't like telling people that you should do this and you don't do this. I can only say what I do and I don't. Everybody has their own way of working, especially the photographers. Sometimes it works for one person, doesn't work for others. So I don't usually preach, But when it comes to do's and don'ts, one of the things that internally we make sure is, because we are into a profession where we are dealing with weddings and it's a one-time kind of a thing. So the seriousness of this profession, you have to be, very dedicated to this job. It's not something you can go and just relax.
You can't go back in time and
go easy and, So I think one of the do's is to, give everything, especially when you go to a wedding, because it is some bride might have thought of this day for, since years and years. So one of the do's is to give everything. I mean, sometimes what happens is, as a photographer, sometimes you are tired, sometimes because you're shooting back to back, you're traveling, you're away from your family. There can be a lot of reasons which you can give or excuses you can give because this didn't happen, that didn't happen. But in the end, you are shooting some of the most important days, and there is absolutely no way you can recreate. And this is one of the sort of the tough thing about this profession is that nothing can be done again. So you have to be on your toes. You have to make sure that you know your equipment, you know what you're doing. You should be present where your presence is required. You cannot sort of skip anything. So I think in that way, I would that's the one thing that I usually will tell that others, that at least I ensure that take this profession very, very seriously. It's a very serious profession. Whatever you see online or whatever comes to, on the social media, that's not exactly the wedding. A lot goes on to ensure that a wedding is captured and filmed and everything nicely. It's complete in all respect. So it is a very, very serious profession. Even though the photographs can be very happy and everything is very happy, but it's a very serious profession. And we have to
Do justice to
we
it.
have to just justify, we have to respect the fact that, some of the most emotional, you're playing with some of the most emotional moments of, two families. So I feel that acknowledgement should be there when you're shooting.
Right, right. What are some of the myths that you feel people have, apart from like it's a very glamorous job now because of the social media, it's coming out to be that way. But what are some of the myths that you would like to bust about the industry?
I think one of the myths is that it is very easy. Because it's very easy to get into weddings. So a lot of people think that it's a very easy profession. But out of all the professions, all the, genres I have tried, I think it's, including fashion or documentary or street or, the wildlife or, take any field of photography. This is one of the toughest, not one of the toughest, it is actually the toughest field of photography. And this is one of the myths that, people think that it's, because you will see wedding photographers everywhere. It's very easy you can just buy a camera and you say, I'll shoot your wedding for free. Most of the people will love to have you, shoot their weddings for free. So it's very easy to get into the profession itself.
Is it? People trust that easily? Or is
if you're
it
doing
like...
for free, they don't have to trust.
Right. Okay.
So it's a
resource-oriented
yeah,
thing.
I mean, see, not everybody can afford. There are a lot of people who cannot afford. So for them, getting somebody, like if somebody comes to me and I cannot afford to have a top photographer, and somebody comes, he's passionate, he says, I'll give me a chance, and I would love to give him a chance. So I think it's like the demand and supply kind of a thing. If the people want somebody with some certain budget, anybody can start. So it's very easy to get into this compared to other fields, like into fashion and all this. It's very tough to.
Right.
Not that easy to get into. You need to have a lot of
contacts
and resources to get into serious profession. But in weddings, it's easy to get into. But I think it's a bit tough to succeed, and it's tough to climb ladders. A lot of people get stuck in a certain level, and they're not able to get out or climb up after that.
Right.
So in that way, I think wedding is tough. It's very tough. Technically also, from business point of view also, I think it's one of the toughest fields of photography. That is for sure. So I think that is one of the myths. It's like, it's not that easy. Which a lot of people, because when I speak to a lot of young photographers, they just think that it's just fun. Like, it's you can do whatever you want. And a lot of people think that they, another myth is that you can be as creative as you want. That's also a myth. As you climb, again, as I said, as you go up and up, you'll figure out that it's not about you can do whatever you want. It's like within the restrictions, within the scope, because you're shooting someone else's wedding. You're not shooting a personal feature film that you can do whatever you want, whatever story you want to build. So you have to stay true to the wedding itself. Within that limitations, you have to be creative. But I think a lot of people think that it's just you enter and you do whatever crazy stuff you want to do. And so that also is, I think, is a myth.
Right. That brings me to, like you said that you have to stick to the concept and the boundaries or the parameters of what it actually is.
Yeah.
Yet you do unconventional stuff. Like you present it in a very like movie kind of a way, where the couple, like a real life couple, feels like they're in a movie, like their movie. How do you do that? Like, because you yourself just said that you have to stick to it. So then how do you bring that out?
Like a lot of people ask me, whenever I'm ask me anything on Instagram, people say that, how are you able to do this and that? But I think that is where your aesthetics or your sensibilities, what I have learned from years and years of watching a lot of movies. I'm never a Bollywood guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of my aesthetics come from my, the kind of films I've seen, the kind of relationships I've seen. So I think a lot of it has come from that, my background. And that is not something I can explain why or how, because it's just how I've been brought up. And not just me, but why we hire people also, because we share some sort of the same sense of aesthetics.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that aesthetics translate. It's then within that aesthetics, when we come, we bring that aesthetics in. I don't think we try too hard to make a couple look like a film. We don't try that hard. It's just that it's how we naturally, when we go to a wedding, we see the wedding in a specific way, a certain way.
Yeah, do you visualize sometimes?
Yeah, but it's just, we are like that. When we go to a wedding, we want to show in a certain way, and we just try to get as close as possible. We are not successful all the time.
Okay.
You know, because again, there are some boundaries.
Yeah.
For example, the wedding is very beautiful and everything is this, but the couple or let's say the bride or the groom, they're not very, they're not very expressive.
Right.
They don't want to express themselves. But we know that they are full of emotions. But if they express, it will look so beautiful. But obviously, it's not possible. If they're not expressive, it's not expressive. So you have to figure out other ways to, again, the reason why we started, because if you have something to hunt, like to find in a wedding, it's a very exciting. So it's always a very exciting to go and, see what can be done in a wedding. How, and also it's a challenge, especially for me, being an introvert, getting into weddings, suddenly talking to mom and dad, and and also trying to build a good enough rapport that they can open up in front of me, like they can express freely without having those inhibitions or of a stranger being in front of you. I think that has been very challenging, and that's the most exciting part also. And when you go and try to justify the wedding within your own aesthetics sense, you will get the result.
Right.
I think then what you see is what result of that only.
Right.
So that is the
like
approach.
You don't force anything. Like
we don't
it's
force.
Not like
we don't force, because
that
that's
we
why
have to do it this way. It's just it flows.
And that is one of the reasons most of our films are very, very diverse.
Yeah.
Some are very, very slow. Some of the films you'll see are very, hi-fi, very modern and very, fast moving and fast cuts. Because it's not us. The wedding was like that. So our job is to justify. If I come to a wedding and everybody is very emotional, you're very, very rooted wedding, or, everybody is expressing. So my job is to make sure I justify that moment and that emotion.
So you get inspired from the moment itself.
So I'll not bring in my, no, I want to put this kind of music. I want to make you dance, because I make films where bride and groom dance. I'll not make you dance.
Yeah, right.
So it's not going to be like that. The film has to justify, the photograph has to justify. And my job is to make sure that happens.
Right.
That justification happens. And I have to adjust based on what I see.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's how we approach.
Yeah. Talk to me about you've been working since more than a decade, like 2 decades?
No.
Just a decade?
Not even a decade. So I think 2014 is when we started. So it'll be 9 years actually.
Okay. Just about a decade.
Just about a decade.
Yeah. In this, like just about a decade, do you feel like still when you shoot a wedding or when you're, there, you feel like, oh, I learned something new that I didn't know. Does that happen? Like, do you have any instances of that? Oh, this just got created and I never thought of it that way.
See, the frequency of that has slowed down, obviously.
Okay.
And obviously in the first 5-6 years, every wedding I used to see something which I have never seen. And now when we are, about to touch 300, 320 weddings, the frequency of us seeing something or experiencing something which is completely different has reduced a lot.
Okay.
It's not, but it still happens. A lot of weddings, there are a lot of, because, you are not just a wedding, you're dealing with very different, unique people also, right? Every time you see a unique character, unique personality, you will experience something different.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people are different, sometimes the wedding itself is different, sometimes the circumstances are different. So there's a lot of, new experiences, I think. But yes, the frequency has reduced.
Of
definitely.
Learning
of
and
learning
getting
has reduced, definitely. And also we are, achieving a sort of an equilibrium where we also do not divert too much from our, focus or our aesthetics. We used to do a lot of jump around,
Like
when we started.
experimentation.
No, we do experiment, but the boundaries of that experiments we have
Got
sort
it.
of we have put some constraints.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons is because the brand has grown in a certain way where you have to think about the brand.
Right.
So, and the brand aesthetic. So we try to, put certain boundaries around. But within that, obviously, we experiment a lot. Still, the storytelling, we experiment a lot. Still, if you open up our past 3-4 films, you'll see massive, difference in how all these films have been done. You will not, and that is one thing I'm very proud of, that because I get bored very easily. I get bored of everything. I get bored of our own work. So, and that is one of the reasons where I think of why we are able to change and evolve faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because our styles, I get bored. I just get bored. The kind of films we were making 2 years back, I got bored. And I thought, okay, we need to change. And then, and also the style of photographs we are taking, I thought, let's go into more editorial, let's try that. So I think our journey has been more of, just getting bored and trying new stuff.
Right.
So it's very natural. It's not something we force. It's just that we were doing something and we got bored and we just, okay, let's do something else, and we just tried that.
Yeah.
That's how we have worked in the past, So every 2-3 years we have changed.
Right.
In small ways, not completely, but in small ways we have changed. We have changed in the way we are making films, the kind of films, and also since we are still on a sort of path where we're still evolving in the way that the kind of clients we are getting, kind of people we are, the scale of weddings we are doing. So we are still in a phase where we are still, getting those experiences, getting to see new things. Because
evolving and growing still.
And again, because since we get bored, so after every 2 years, we intend to change ourselves.
I think I can agree with that, because I have these 2 wedding films done by you in my mind. One is this, I think, a very traditional wedding that you did in Raipur, I guess. I think that's the first film that I saw on YouTube of The House on the Clouds, and I was very like, it like caught my attention. It was like, this is different, little different, and the name also and everything. As well as when you see on the other end of the spectrum, like the latest or the more newer film that you made, which also like, like it stays in my head or something, is this film that you shot in Tuscany, I think, of this couple called Tamanna and Dan.
Yeah.
So I feel like those 2 are such like, so I can agree with that when you say that evolving and that growing thing, because that is one film that is very traditional, like in terms of the aesthetic also. You've tried to put in your taste and everything, and how you shot it, it comes through. It doesn't look like 2 different people have made it. But at the same time, like, it shows what you're saying, that the journey, like, it has evolved.
Yeah, I know. I think it's not that we have left that traditional thing. I think tomorrow we might post something which is very traditional.
Right.
It's because that is how we are even placing ourselves. We don't want to do same kind of weddings, same kind of films every day. So we do want to take something different. So sometimes we want to do some very traditional, very emotional. Sometimes we want to do very fast and very modern and very, very what you call new age kind of films. But we are very lucky in that way that we get to shoot such, because what happens is once your brand gets created, and when you are, you get a stamp that, okay, you do such kind of films, and only that kind of people will come to you.
Yeah.
But I think in that way, we were very lucky that we still get a lot of, weddings which are on different edges of spectrum, from very traditional to very modern. So we get to witness, to experience the whole range. I think that has been, again, one of our, very, what you call, successful strategies, or, very, very happy with the fact that we get to experience everything, not just one specific.
Talk to me about, how do you think the wedding industry is changing? What do you see new things coming in that you are excited about, and,
Excited. See, since we are in India, and India is a evolving kind of space compared to Western, if you go to Europe or US, if you go and see, most of the weddings are shot and presented in a certain way. But when it comes to India, since India is an evolving market and also the competition here is a bit more hardcore, so I think a lot of people are trying too hard to bring in something new, something fresh. And that is good for the industry because I think a lot of very interesting work I've seen, I think in terms of evolution, one of the things that has happened in the past few years is that the wedding itself has, the films or the photography is a bit more careless and carefree. The vibe that you see when you look at photos or films is very creative and very careless and very what you call
Not trying too hard.
right. Not some of the people I've not seen a lot of films. Actually, very rarely I see any wedding film.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen in the past 1 or 2 years any wedding, but I don't get to see actually. I don't know. I've not seen a lot of films,
Yeah.
but some of the people who I follow, I think one of the best best of the best work I've seen in wedding space has come from Indian videographers, Indian photographers. So I think the evolution has been pretty huge in the past 2 years, I would say.
Okay.
The aesthetics, the evolution, the way photographs are taken, how they are composed, how they are edited, overall aesthetics of weddings. That's not just the photography, but the wedding itself. I think the wedding itself has gone through a lot of evolution in how people are planning their weddings, how people want to showcase their weddings from a bride or groom point of view. I think that has also gone through a lot of evolution, and that obviously has resulted in the evolution of the film or photography.
Right.
But I think the core is because the wedding itself has gone through a lot of people are doing a lot of intimate weddings and very even like most of the people, a lot of people actually moving from night weddings to day weddings. Even though if you're a Punjabi or all those weddings are supposed to happen in the night, but people are moving to keeping in mind the overall aesthetics or everything. People are shifting their weddings to day. Most of the weddings are sunset. I don't think I remember doing a wedding in the night in the past 2-3 years.
Oh, really?
I've never done a 2-3 years. Even Punjabis, proper Punjabi, because if you're a Punjabi, your wedding is supposed to happen night and then
Night.
in the morning.
Yeah.
But I've not done this in the past 2-3-4 years, even though I've done a lot of Punjabi weddings.
Punjabis are getting sober now?
It's not about sober, it's just about
Yeah, it's just that.
the wedding the definition of wedding is changing itself. It's not just about just a traditional ceremony where you come and just
Right.
get married and done and you carry on with your life. The wedding itself, the concept of wedding and the not the marriage. The
Yeah.
concept of marriage is still the same, but the wedding, the ceremony, how you celebrate, the concept
function,
of
the
celebration,
event.
that celebration has changed. And I think with that change, obviously it has bring in some changes in the way we photograph or we film.
Right.
But I think the core is that the concept is evolving. The concept of wedding, the ceremony, how it should be done, how it should be presented, that has undergone quite a lot of change in the past 2 years.
Agree. I can agree with that. But people have become more thoughtful of how they want to design the most special day of their lives. Yeah.
People are spending a lot of time to do something new also.
On wedding.
On weddings, like what they're gonna wear, what the kind of makeup. Everybody's trying to do something, or if they see something which has happened, they want to stick to it. So I think a lot of people are taking weddings a lot more seriously. The celebration part.
Yeah.
The celebration
point to be
part.
noted here is
the celebration
event
part.
part is taken more seriously than the actual.
And also, I think you will also see that why the vibe also of the kind of weddings which used to happen before, and the whole vibe has changed because now what happens is most of the time the couple are already very good friends.
Right.
They're already good friends, so they want to enjoy that ceremony. If you go back few years back, not long back, not my mom and dad time,
Yeah.
just few years back, it was still a very what you call
Traditional.
very traditional kind of ceremony. For the sake of it, you have to call guests to put it on paper that you are married. But now it's like there are friends, they have already spent time each other, they know each other, they want to just enjoy. So that fun and that vibe is visible. And a lot of that is translating to a lot of emotions. Because earlier, most of the emotions were between mom and
Families.
the families.
Yeah.
Like the mom or the bride, and those emotions were there because there was a sense of going away. So you will see a lot of emotion around that vidai, around that. But now what is happening is that the connection between the couple, the bride and the groom, is becoming more and more prominent.
Yeah.
It's showing up more and more on the, so it's getting more about the couple than the mom, dad, mama, mummy, chacha, chachi. So I think that also is one of big changes that has happened in the past few years. And even when we are filming, we are also focusing more and more on the story of the couple than the whole khandan, and all that thing. But I think because just the couple, people are becoming very independent. They want to just showcase their story. They don't want to. And also, a lot of people tell that they don't have patience to watch a long film. They just want a very, very small film, short film. So I think, and that way, I think that has evolved a lot in the past 2 years.
Yeah. Technology-wise, do you see
Almost
anything?
Massive. Technology-wise, cameras, then now this AI, and all that is, it's changing the way we shoot, the kind of equipment we are carrying. And especially AI, because the kind of films we make, AI helps us a lot.
Okay.
Because, I personally don't like to make couples sit or people sit and do a interview.
Okay.
In a wedding space, like what we are sitting. I don't like this setup.
And show that.
Yeah, in a wedding, how we usually do is when you're interacting with the family, you make them sit and you put a camera and I felt like we do it, but the idea is that it just feels a bit more very formal. I personally wanted to make film which looked like a home video, like you see when you used to make when you were kids, you make home videos, right?
Yeah.
So when you are making a home video of in your house, you are carrying the camera.
Yeah.
And people are interacting with you.
Yeah.
But when you see the home video, it will feel like you're interacting with the camera.
Yeah.
So that home video feel I wanted to, give. That I think is more personal. Now you will not keep a home video somewhere and then talk to your mom and dad. So how you talk is like in your face.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we take the camera, we go in the face, and so when they're talking to you, it feel like they're talking to like a family member.
A guard comes up. Then your natural, that feeling and that emotion will not come out that freely, I feel.
Might come, but it's just that when it might or might not come. It depends on how I'm talking to you and how much emotions are there. But when it comes to watching it again, I think it's a huge difference how it is shot.
Right.
Like putting the camera there and shooting, then me holding the camera and talking to you. If I sit and keep the camera and talk to you, it will be much more personal. So I feel I'm more into that kind of filmmaking where it gets more and more personal, where you're talking to me as a family member.
Like a person.
Like a person or somebody like your brother or somebody who is holding a old handycam and just shooting.
Right.
I felt that was one of the kind of films I wanted to make. We have made some films like that, but it's not possible all the time because in destination weddings and all that we can't take this approach every time. So we do this sit down interviews as well. But the idea is, or the aim is to make films which feel like home videos.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Interesting. Very interesting. Talk to me about you shot some of the biggest celebrity weddings recently. Your clicked picture of Sid and Kiara's wedding has the most likes on Instagram in India. You recently shot Alana Pandey and Iva McRae's wedding as well, and that was also like a big hit, and the vibe and the aesthetic, everything matched for both of you. What are you looking forward to next now? Is there any some bucket list thing or okay, I want to tick this now?
Okay, so honestly, I think we have ticked everything.
Okay.
Currently. But as someone from this field, let's say if you ask somebody who is just starting, if you ask him what do you want to do for the past 5-10 years, most likely he will say stuff which we are already doing now. And obviously we want to move ahead. We want to take this forward, and we want to explore more and more this space.
Right.
Because recently, I think in the past 1 year, we have the kind of weddings we have been part of, have blown our minds. So,
Okay.
be it the kind of aesthetics, be it the kind of scale, kind of location they choose. So I think we are into a place where we are still exploring a lot. I think it's going to keep us busy for a few years for sure.
Okay.
But eventually we'll have to figure out where we go next from here. And but I think we've not really thought about what we're gonna, how we're
Like a
gonna take this forward.
milestone moment.
As of now, to be very honest, our milestones, the definition of milestones have changed.
Okay.
Because we never kept a milestone like we will do on celebrity wedding one day.
Right, of course.
So this was not a milestone. My milestones are very different. My milestones are like I want to do a Japanese wedding in Japan.
Oh, wow.
So these are my milestones. Now that is actually tougher than shooting a celebrity wedding.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that was one of my milestones which I kept 4-5 years back and still I'm not able to do. But I'm able to do a celebrity wedding. So I think having such milestone, because I think 2 years back we shot a proper Cypriot wedding in Cyprus.
Okay.
No Indian, nothing. I felt that was one of our big achievements. I felt that is even bigger than doing a celebrity wedding for me. From a business point, obviously this is a big achievement.
No, but I agree.
But from a personal, point of view, for me, going to let's say, we shot a all Arabic wedding in Dubai. I think that was one of our big milestones personally, and that is what my next milestone is. Also in that same kind of thing, I want to do a Japanese wedding in Japan, which is extremely tough because there's a language barrier. So you have to overcome a lot of stuff. Why would somebody in Japan call somebody from Bangalore?
Yeah.
Even Mumbai people don't call people from Bangalore. So somebody in Japan calling us from Bangalore, I think that's a huge goal to have, I feel, in my head. Like if I can achieve that, that'd be big. Like how do I convince a Japanese couple to call me?
But you never know. World is very mysterious like that. Things happen, I believe. Especially in this kind of thing that you're talking about. People who've not witnessed it in a small or big way feel that it's rare. But actually it's not, is what I feel.
Yeah, actually you're right in that way, because again, it depends on what side of the table you're sitting, and, so I'm telling from a point of view of a wedding photographer who's operating from Bangalore.
Yeah.
From that point of view, doing something like that, let's say a Kazakh wedding in a Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Doing something like that is, I don't think you can put any goal above this goal.
Yeah.
Next goal to do some Hollywood celebrity wedding.
Yeah.
But I don't keep such goals. So
Yeah.
my goal is to probably, go to Kazakhstan one day and shoot a, let's say, local Kazakh wedding. That is one of my, goals.
Could happen. I'm a big believer these things happen.
Hopefully, I mean, it has happened for us in the past.
Yeah.
I think some of the most memorable weddings we have shot, because I remember we shot one all Arab. Like it's not Arab, it was an Iraqi wedding.
Okay.
And I remember the wedding happened in Dubai. It was we were the only Indians, only outsiders.
Okay.
Only non-Arabic speaking people. And I remember there was this barat happening in the tradition.
They have a barat?
They have this barat. We call it barat, they call it something else.
Okay.
But where the groom enters first, which is like same, procession kind of thing. And then the bride comes in a dolly.
Okay.
They don't call it as dolly. But I remember I was standing at the gate and the barat was coming at the procession, and then they started chanting something in Arabic.
Okay.
And sort of it gave me goosebumps just by, looking at that, because everybody, the whole crowd chanted in a very same like, oh, no. And it felt like,
Powerful.
it's so powerful and so unbelievable. And I was like, how the hell I landed up here? And that was the time, when we were shooting, Kiara or this, I never thought how the hell I landed up here. Because
Right.
I felt I worked hard enough to, reach.
Predictable. That's predictable.
Yeah, sort of predict. I would not predict, but yeah, it was still.
Comparatively,
Yeah,
I'm
but
saying.
when I stood there and I saw that happening, I had this, all this goosebumps, and I was like, and I was not able to shoot. I put the camera down. I was like, what the hell? And I remember, Vivek, who works, shoots for me, and I told him that how the hell we landed up here? How the hell have we achieved this? Because that for me is one of my career high. Because in the end, it's the experience what we are seeking.
Yeah.
I personally am seeking experiences. When we go to let's say Rome, or we go to somewhere, it's just experiences. Wedding, for them, for the couple, it's a wedding. But for us, what we are seeking is a new experience. That's what keeps us going.
True.
That's what keeps, even when we're shooting a celebrity wedding, it's an experience, new experience for us.
True.
And it's a very, I felt very different experience. It's a very sort of that anxiety, the mix of anxiety, a mix of, oh, we have to do this, we cannot do that, and all that. And I think in the end, it's an experience. Like we recently shot Pariniti's engagement. It's an experience altogether. Like, oh, celebrities can be like that, or they're just not normal people. So it's just an experience to know that, okay, like even when we're shooting Alia, and we didn't feel like it's a celebrity wedding at all.
And you're
like
there, like it feels
yeah, I mean, it
home
felt
and family is the
as-
same everywhere.
Yeah, especially Alia Ranbir wedding. I would like, I didn't feel that it was. I didn't feel it felt like a family kind of a wedding, because it's such a small space and everybody is talking to you. Everybody, and sort of by the end of the third day, everybody knew you already. So I felt, but it was a completely new experience, and that summation of those experiences, that what makes you. It also defines you as a photographer or videographer, or it defines your aesthetics. We take some aesthetics from everybody. We take something from everybody. Sometimes we take up some music from one wedding. We take up one, it, and what it does is it just combines and becomes your overall aesthetics.
Yeah.
And I think that is and I think right now we are enjoying that phase. We're enjoying the phase of experiencing something. I would say that we are in the best phase of our journey as a photographer and videographer, because right now the kind of weddings we are doing, the kind of places we are going, the kind of people we are meeting, it's just amazing. Some of the nicest people, I think in the past 1 year, like some of the most, like, at least for me, like my personal experience, some of the nicest people, some of the places where we have gone to, like last year we shot a wedding on Eiffel Tower, and I like, oh, how the hell that happened? Like, it's unreal.
Yeah.
It might be materialistic to that extent that, oh, you're big and you're shooting
No, but
that.
it's bigger than that.
But I mean, it's a part of the experience, sometimes shooting a wedding we shot one wedding of Richa in Himachal. It's a very small, very intimate wedding, and I was like so happy and so lucky that I got to shoot that wedding. It was one of the most amazing experiences. And then few days back, you're shooting in Paris. So I felt like all that is just an experience. Like shooting a small wedding in a court, and shooting a wedding, let's say, in a big 5-star or big location, in the most beautiful locations in Italy or somewhere. I think it's all part of, we are very blessed. I would say we are very blessed in the phase that we are going right now. I was very blessed and very fortunate to have reached this stage, and we are enjoying it. Right now we are in the I'm not complaining. We travel a lot, we shoot a lot of deadlines, lot of hectic this thing, but I think still it's the best. As a photographer, filmmaker, I don't think you can ask for anything more.
When you said that, I think it gives you a perspective and it broadens your horizon when you're put into extreme experiences like that.
Yeah.
And I think as a creative professional, that always helps.
Definitely.
Any creative field you're in, if your mind is stretched to the extremes every time, I think it's going to bring out new things every time.
Definitely. I think that is one of the reasons why, I would say one of the reasons why we have reached this point is because, those experiences from, so many different kinds and places has all, come together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is true.
And a little bit again more similarity. Why I also do this in person right now in Bangalore. When you said that we could do this online, but it's the experience. And I just said to my team when we were coming in the cab, and they were like, why are we, like, just everyone thinks like that. And it to me also, it might occur, like, is it is it a right thing to go and do? But then I told them in the car, like, it's the experience. Like, I woke up at 3 a.m. We did hair and makeup. We came here. We had like a fun taxi driver. And so that becomes a story and that stays.
True.
If we did it online, it just becomes another episode.
Correct.
There's no story. There's no experience. And when you die, you are a collection of your experiences. Nothing else remains.
Yeah.
So that's why, that's again a little bit more similarity, that why I also do it this way and in this setting, which, like, I couldn't have asked for a better setting, honestly. So now we'll move to a little bit more fun segment, which is called Curious Quick 5.
Yes.
So we do this segment so that, I'm curious and I want other people to think about what they are curious about at the moment.
Okay.
So are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe, yeah, of course.
One thing that you're curious about recently, apart from photography, videography, filmmaking, weddings.
Actually, I am curious about the cafe that we are opening,
Okay.
that we have planned. The reason why we started, the name, from
The
where the
original
name,
house on
the
the
original
clouds.
house in the clouds. I am very, very curious to finally make it a possibility.
Nice. What's the one person that you're curious about? Could be living or dead.
So I'll tell you one person I am currently, I don't know, but I'll just tell a name.
Yeah.
Which is, I take his name quite a lot, and that's A.R. Rahman.
Okay.
I'm always curious about him. I think a lot of what I do is actually a bit of what I see. Because for me, he's one of my biggest. I'm not into music. I don't compose music, but I think it's just that kind of person, the kind of persona he has. It's just I feel he's the most talented person in my whole, ever. The kind of music he creates and all that. And also to a point that when I see him dress in a certain way in concerts, like, I know I should not do this. Just because you, like, get to a certain place where people expect you to wear certain kind. So I feel a lot of times I feel motivated and demotivated, and like that by one person. I think that would be Rahman. And
Okay.
I listen to his songs a lot. A lot of my wedding films are actually,
Influences of.
but I've never used A.R. Rahman's song in any of my films. But it's just that because it's too popular. But a lot of the kind of films we make is because the kind of music you listen to. And I think in that way, Rahman, I feel, for me, if you ask one person who I'm very curious about, it will be Rahman.
Yeah, I think his music is very simple, but yet sometimes complex.
Not just music, as a person.
Okay.
The kind of person he is, the kind of personality, the kind of, even though he is certain, at a certain level, the kind of way he presents himself. I just like that, the persona,
Yeah.
what you call. I
Nice.
feel as a person, how he talks, this thing, I felt like this is something I would want to be
Yeah.
in future. Yeah.
Nice. What's the one place you're curious to travel to?
Japan.
Okay.
Again, I already told you. If not for wedding, maybe I'll just go and visit. I think it's one place where, which has always, fascinated me. And hopefully will, if not for a wedding, I might just take my family. But this is, I always I'll be very lucky if I get to shoot a wedding there. But a Japanese wedding in Japan, which is I told my ultimate goal. But Japan is a place which always, I'm very curious about that place, the culture.
Okay. What's the one book or author you're curious about?
I have never read any book in my life.
Okay.
I have never ever read a book, which is, I think that is one thing I would not want my kids to take from me.
Very interesting.
That I have never read. I'm not into reading at all. Outside my curriculum, my textbooks, I have never read any book at all. And which is a bit ironic, because let's say if I want to make a film, maybe I want to make a film in future, and somebody who has never read a single book in his whole life to make a film with a proper narration, I think it will be like one hell of a task. But this is, I feel, one of my biggest shortcomings that I tried. It's just that I just couldn't. I tried my best. I bought books. I have a lot of books, but it's just that I don't have that patience I just wait for the movie. I remember I started, so I asked someone that, okay, tell me one book. I'm not a reader. So if I have to, let's say, develop my interest into reading, tell me one book which I should read. And somebody told me to read Godfather.
Okay.
And I read few pages and then I just saw the film. And I loved the film. So I felt like, so maybe I'm more of a visual person or whatever, but
Could be.
But this is something I really want my kids not to take from me. I think
I thought you wanted them to take.
No,
so I
no,
misunderstood that.
no,
Yeah.
they should not take this. One thing that should not
Okay.
take this from me is that I don't read at all, which
Okay.
is big shortcoming. I'm not very proud of it.
What's the one technology that you're curious about?
AI. Again, another thing that we have, because I think what we have seen in the past 2 years, I have not seen such fast technological advancement ever. Because we are, I don't know what they call us. Gen Z, I don't know what they call us. Millennial, what are we? Millennials or what? 1982.
Boomers or something.
No, 1982, who are we?
Boomers, I guess.
Boomers only? No, not boomer. I think there's a better name here. Something.
Millennial to is
Millennial
not.
to 2000 ho gaya na? But I think, what are we called? 80s people. So if you see 80s people, they saw that advancement of computing and baby, no.
Yeah, I think something related to boomers. Yeah.
Gen X, Gen X. That is still a better name to God. So, and we have seen that.
Gen X is 90s. Sorry to interrupt.
Is it 90s? Gen Z?
Gen Z is like now.
No, Gen Z is the now. 1980s, what do you call people? We are millennials? Millennial? Good.
Good.
So, I think being a millennial, we have seen, the advancement. I've seen computers from,
From that floppy.
it's true. I think a lot of like computing, but I don't think I never expected to witness something so extraordinary so soon, so fast. I don't think there has been any technological advancement so fast where it has reached people. Sometimes there is a thing like, okay, there's some equipment, they have created something, but it is used by big companies and big organizations. Slowly it reaches your home. But this is something you just, in one day, it's everywhere. I felt, and I think this is amazing. I think I'm an engineer, so obviously I get fascinated by my gadgets. I get very fascinated by a lot of technology stuff. Because in my college, I used to be a geek.
Okay.
Like a big geek. They used to call me Kampu.
Okay.
I used to spend nights in the computer lab. I used to make games, and I was a very super duper geek kind of a guy. And some of it has still remained. I hope so. And actually I stopped because I got bored of that being called a geek. So I got bored of that. So I changed.
Right.
So again, one of the things that I still carry on that thing of getting bored of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think AI definitely fascinates. I think it's great.
Nice. I think everyone right now is fascinated in some way or the other.
Definitely.
Based on how it's going to affect them or something.
Yeah.
So we've reached the end of our conversation. Would you like to share any last thoughts about the conversation? Any feeling?
Oh, feelings though. See, thoughts again. See, I don't give interviews actually. I think in the past, during the COVID times, I gave 1 or 2 interviews. I don't remember giving a lot of interviews, but I feel like it's not that. I did a decent job, no, Ashwin. I did a decent job.
But I feel flattered.
I think
you agreed to this.
I think maybe because of Shruti.
I feel flattered, like I said.
Because I think again, not a very person who like to express things, but it's good nowadays. Once in a while, sitting and talking about stuff,
Going through the whole journey again.
Yeah, It's been a long journey. So yeah, sometimes it's nice. I mean, it's nice to take a break and talk about
Good.
yourself, because I don't get to speak about myself. So it's nice, a good break.
For someone who thinks like that, you did like pretty well. Good.
Decent.
Thank you so much for doing this. It
Thank
was
you.
absolutely fantastic and loved having you on the podcast. I'm sure people are going to watch it and love it as well.
It was a
And they're
pleasure.
going to see you as a person and going to like be even more fascinated by the work that you do. And hope you keep coming up with interesting aesthetics, stories and weddings. And can't wait. We look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming all the way
Yeah.
for
Thank
this.
you. Thank
And
you.
it was a pleasure.
We couldn't have asked for a better setting. Yeah, it's fun.
I think if you open the curtain, it will be slightly better
Okay.
because it is hot right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.